Wow, this week I have a great episode for you. We're back with another founder story, and this time I'm joined by Yoni Assia, co-founder and CEO of eToro, and we're going deep, deep, deep into the archives, back to the Bitcoin forums in 2011 to hear from Yoni how he started eToro, how he was an early adopter at almost everything that matters in the tech world, and what he thinks the future holds for us. So without further ado, welcome Yoni. Welcome to Beyond the Code, the podcast where industry experts and brilliant legal minds discuss the impact of new emerging technologies. I'm your host, Yitzi Hammer, a lawyer and tech enthusiast. Join us as we explore the legal, regulatory, and ethical issues surrounding AI, blockchain, and more. Get ready to go beyond the code and stay ahead of the game. Yoni, thank you so much for joining me. Most people know who you are nowadays, at least in the tech community, in the crypto community. But I kind of want to go a little bit more into your origin story. Obviously, I want to talk about eToro and everything that you guys are doing now and going to be doing, and the AI phenomenon that's hitting the fintech world as well. But I really kind of want to start from your origin story. So tell me, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Israel. Moved from Ramat Sharon to Savion when I was about 13.
Okay.
Actually, also used to spend some quiet time abroad with my family. So when my father was the CEO of Magic, then every 2 months, like July, August, every year, we'd spend originally in the UK. Then
Okay.
afterwards, when they set it up in the US, in Orange County, in Irvine. So had the experience to sort of travel quite a bit around the world with the family.
So you had a global upbringing. I guess that's where your English came from as well.
Yeah.
Okay. And like, what was your early exposure to computers? I think you're like you're what, 49 now?
Oof, 44. Don't.
44. I don't know. I read a blog post that you wrote from 2014 that you said you were 33. So I just, I did
It's
bad math there.
yeah. So what the
44. Okay.
basically, when I grew up,
That makes more sense.
yeah,
Yeah.
when I grew up, my parents sort of, they told me these stories where I was a bit of a troublemaker as a kid. So I'm ADHD, and every time they used to bring me to like friends, and if they weren't looking at what I'm doing exactly at that moment, they would have found me like in the
Doing
fridge,
something else.
eggs, like throwing eggs at the door or the floor.
I have
um
4 kids like that, so I could totally relate.
yeah, I have five, but fortunately maybe only one of them is really like that. But so my parents always used to kid that they gave me a keyboard when I was about, I don't know, 5 or 6, and that sort of calmed me down because I got like completely hooked up to computers very early on. Now it's easier. Now it's with iPads when they're two. Not that that's necessarily a good parenting advice, but like from a very young age, I got hooked up onto computers. Luckily, also into a family where my father is a CEO founder of a company that produces rapid application development, right? Magic software. So a lot of the dialogue in the house was always about computers, technology, finance, stocks, and capital markets. So not that surprising that my hobbies and everything I do in life is computers, technology, capital markets, and investing.
Okay. So they set you up for success to some extent.
Well, they set me up to sort of follow things that I love. And, I did, like I always say, I had these aha moments when I was young. I very much remember like the internet early days of 95, 96, and sort of finding out the internet and learning at how TCP/IP works. And then I remember another big aha moment. This was like downloading Simpson episode texts from BBS's. And then I still remember like the first time I did a trade from a local Israeli bank, but sort of that point when I clicked a trade and then I saw that trade sort of changing the price on Yahoo Finance, I think it was back then. So me doing like a trade in an Israeli bank, and suddenly realizing, okay,
Facilitating.
this is changing the actual price of the stock worldwide.
Yeah.
And then followed on. I've always loved how capital markets sort of connect everything around the world, and how the internet connects people and data overall around the world.
Yeah. Okay, amazing. So then you went into the IDF as a programmer. I mean, like, what was that? Like, it wasn't as like, I guess, like, comfortable as it is today. Today, if you go to like 8200 or one of these, or 81, any of these units, like, it's people know what they're getting into. I mean, at the time I went into the army in like 2005, I had it wasn't as glamorous as it is today. It wasn't such a clear cut path that you were going to get coming out.
Right. So
Today, it's kind of
first,
like fast track to high tech.
I was first dealing like with a lot of these tools very early on, like since probably like 12, 13. I was like a big fan of what my father did, and I used to go with him to like he was lecturing and creating presentations, and I used to like edit his PowerPoints and build stuff in AutoCAD. And then later I actually learned he developed basically a programming language. So I learned how to program in Magic software. And I used to build websites. This is pre-army, when I was about 15, 16. Me and my brother had this business of building websites to small, medium businesses. So I actually came into the IDF already with relatively large sort of skill and expertise I'd say superficial level, like web programming. But I already also knew that you can make money on the internet.
Right.
So
So
that's
you
me.
weren't looking at it as a career opportunity.
Yeah. So I love building stuff. Like I'm the most excited I was in years now, because suddenly I can build stuff with my open claw through my WhatsApp in bed. But so I always knew I loved building stuff even before going to the army. And then in the army, I basically became like a more professional programmer. And I met a lot of extremely talented people. I think that's the benefits, or one of the benefits of the IDF, is you get to meet really, really talented people, especially in technology, spanning, by the way, not only computer sciences, but electrical engineering and other things. And then from the army, together with a couple of friends from the army that were probably on average 10 or 15 years older than me, we started our first company called CityRide, which built on top of a lot of things that I've learned in the army. But that was like completely different to what I do today. Toro, it was installing video cameras on roller coasters, like real hardware with microcomputers on a roller coaster connected to a video camera that sends it over Wi-Fi in MP4. And every time that the roller coaster sort of stands, it charges a lithium battery on the rails of the roller coaster. So the computer actually has power every time it goes through a cycle. So like completely different than the markets. The only similar thing is to eToro is the markets are also a roller coaster.
So it was a camera basically that self-powered itself and then took pictures of people on the roller coaster. So when you
Video.
get to the bottom, you can get like your buy
Yeah.
this here kind of thing.
So 16 video cameras, and when you go down from the roller coaster, you had 16 screens showing people their entire video of them on the roller coaster, and you could basically buy a DVD. Or this was pre-DVD at the beginning, so this is why it was called CD Ride. You can buy the video on the
On a
CD,
CD-ROM.
on a CD-ROM. Later became a DVD, but the company was already CD Ride.
Wow. Did that take off?
It did. The problem was unit economics. So the cost of setting such a platform for a park like Paramount, and like we went to Universal Studios and like big parks, and the cost of setting up a system would cost us like $80,000. That's 20 plus years ago, right? So probably the equivalent of $300,000 today. And the problem is that parks only revenue shared the DVD, right? So somebody would pay
You had to
$20.
lay down the infrastructure,
So we have
and
to lay
also you have
down
no control over
insane
the
amount
environment.
structure with all sort of ex people from the unit who went in there. I spent like a month and a half in Canada freezing in what's called Wonderland, which is like a park there to install the cameras. And while I'm debugging the system on in the park itself, the next day I'm also selling the DVDs, right? This is me, 22, 23-year old.
Talk about hustling. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I've heard you tell your story so many times over the years, and you always tell it like just like breeze through as if like everything you did was such a great success. I'm not saying that this wasn't a success, but like there must have been so many challenges along the way. I would love to kind of hear what the like what your most difficult periods were in, I guess, starting from these earlier ventures, but also even with eToro. Like, was it just a breeze, like it sounds, or was it a bit hard? Were there a bit more of the hustle stories, like you just mentioned, like in the freezing cold installing cameras in
So
Canada?
first of all, CD Ride was tough, a really tough business, right? So again, not figuring out unit economics means you have a non-sustainable business. So we raised a lot of money to finance it. The people who raised the money, which wasn't me because I was like in my early 20s, I don't think, again, I learned from them a lot, but I think the way they raised money was like, let's raise another $300,000. Let's raise another $300,000. Like the idea itself was not $1 billion unicorn potential, right? And then you add to that bad unit economics, which means we were losing money at least like 12 months for every contract we did. And I was there shouting and screaming, telling my partners, this is not sustainable and it's not going to work. And that led to a lot of friction that eventually led me to sort of to leave the company. Although I did help them sell the company to Kodak. But it wasn't like a great success. Most investors maybe made some of their money back, but we did sell the company. And I think I was recently at a park where it's actually Kodak, right? And also Kodak
Kodak
actually
still
went
exists.
bankrupt. So Kodak was the number one company in the space selling pictures, right? Because you make money on the pictures. So eventually it went OTC, then Kodak bought it. So while I owe my partners there a lot of the experience and expertise of what it is to become a founder, all the way to taking it to an OTCBB, as sort of what you call today a SPAC, into a listed company in the OTCBB and selling it to Kodak. Like at the end of the day, from a business perspective, that wasn't a huge success. With a lot of time in the middle, where we sometimes we didn't have money to pay the salaries, right? So we had to shrink the company back to the partners. So I don't think business is ever super easy. I don't know if you've seen, like, now OpenAI paid I think $1 billion to the OpenClaw founder, but this is number 44 project of his.
Wow.
So there's 43 failures between that before that 44. And in eToro as well, we had a lot of ups and downs. I always knew I wanted to build something very big, and building something very big is making sometimes big bets too early or big bets that are wrong. And eventually, by the way, sometimes you need to get back to those sort of bets. But we built Bitcoin and launched it when it was $1,200 a month before Mount Gox collapsed. And 3 months before that, I went and actually met the founder of Mount Gox in Japan. And I was like,
Mark,
wow, this is amazing. Look, everything is automated. And me going to my management and to my board, look, this is the future, crypto, everything is automated. To 3 months later, like realizing, okay, Mount Gox just went collapsed, and all the gatekeepers in eToro were right for saying I'm crazy, for basically Bitcoin to not do
just
anything.
that once, probably.
Not sound crazy. I think crazy is good. So I am in the uh you know I'd say I like the Jobs famous sentence of crazy people And now when you look at Elon Musk, you can't take that crazy off either. So I think there's a lot of merit of thinking extremely big and into the future as a
Yeah,
founder. And most people just call that
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah. So, speaking of founders and co-founders, you co-founded eToro in 2007 with your brother and another co-founder. What's it like working with your brother? I know, like a lot of people find it challenging working with close friends or siblings, but you guys seem to have stuck together well for a while. I think he's also the one I've heard you say who actually showed you Bitcoin after you
Yeah.
had been writing about digital assets for a while. He's like, "Hey, take a look at this. This is similar to what you've been writing about for a while." What's it like founding and running a company? Are you
So,
guys like good brothers, close brothers? Were you always close? I mean, I know like for me, it
you
would be a
know,
dream if my kids did something like this together.
so we were always good brothers. Like I owe a lot to my family, generally, right? My entire sort of small family and big family. We're a close family with also my sister who runs a VC, my wife who runs a VC, Renena who's also a partner at a VC. So we were always very much engraved in capital markets and venture capital and technology. And I think for me and Roden also, what was interesting is we came from very different skill sets. So I did my computer sciences master's. He was doing his industrial design master's in the Royal College of Arts in London. And it's sort of and predating this, when we were together in school, if you remember, there was these metal figurines of the Dungeons and Dragons. You remember those?
Yeah,
Who
sure.
you would color them, right? So my Ronen is an artist. Like he's a very, like, you look at paintings and sculptures that he built. Me as a young, like his young brother, I used to
You
look
have
at
one
that and
here.
I'm like, wow, this is like real talent. And I used to take drawing of his, and like I remember like a drawing of Iron Maiden and these small sculptures, and I used to sell them at school. So I was always the hustler looking for a deal.
Your first
Um,
co-venture.
yeah, co-venture is complicated because in some cases maybe I did not ask his permission to sell his stuff at school. Um,
What did you
but,
give him
but
a bit of the
eventually
cash?
we were rev sharing. So very
Okay.
early on, it was like he was design and product. And then also when we built websites together, he was again design and designing sort of the user experience of the websites, and I was coding the websites, and we were selling them together to people. And the same happened in eToro, right? So he was the product design. He is significantly well. I just don't have that skill of design.
More creative than you are.
He is design at nature, and I'm a programmer and a financial geek. So that combination worked very well for us. He also says sometimes in more of like an ancient, I think, like Asian philosophy, like the older brother is the scholar, and the younger brother is like the fighter. So he would say like, we think together, I'm the scholar, and then you go run and kill them.
Okay, fair enough. I guess you guys complete each other that way. So you co-founded eToro in 2007, and that was right before the financial crisis. Like, what was that like? You went out, you raised a bunch of money, you started talking about this product that was like a game changer, I guess, for the industry, and then all havoc broke loose. Like, how did that affect you guys? What did it feel like being, an early founder in the midst of one of the worst financial crisis in history?
So first of all, a couple of things like surprised me in finance, which I think eventually will lead us to fintech, blockchain, etc. So when we built the software originally, I was like assuming, because I come from computers, that everything is in real time, and that when you want to
How little did you know?
give your financials, you're like, okay, here's the report from my database to the tax authorities, and you're like, here's my financials. To realize that connectivity to banks doesn't really work, that everything is T+2. So you sort of transact, everything is based on ETLs of T+1 at least. So we really saw something is broken, right? Blockchain potentially solves it, but this is 18 years later, and we're still very much early days of like tokenizing everything. Then in a financial crisis, that deepened our understanding of how much finance is a broken industry. A month before, one of our investors called us and said, "Listen, please trust me. You should really understand where all the money is of the investors and your clients. Diversify everything. Don't have all your money in one bank. Something is coming where you'll wake up and you won't know whether the bank that you have your clients' money and investor money works." And that was like probably 30 days. It was, I think, post Bear Stearns, prior to Lehman. And then I remember the days when like the actual shock happened. You did not know if the next morning your bank opens. The pipes to banks, which is today, I think today can't happen anymore, but everything failed. Like nothing worked. AP, there wasn't like quotes of currencies, right? So today it's like 1 pip, euro, dollar, it like went to 1,000. Like nothing worked for a couple of
Wow.
days. And like it seemed like you're in this like like everything broke and nothing works anymore. And then you asked me about tough times in eToro. That investor told me like, maybe it's time now to close eToro 2008. You should close eToro and return all of the money of the investor to investors. That would be the most responsible thing, Yoni, you can do. Uh, but surprisingly, which we've learned after again and again and again and again, crisis creates opportunity, crisis creates volatility, and trading and retail investors love those opportunities. So while the markets were completely shook, our revenues grew from, I think it was $5.5 million in our first year of operation to $17 million in 2019.
Wow.
That's like significant growth, even if you're thinking about this today, right? So
Wait,
we
just
went
pause
from
there one
zero.
second. Take me back to that moment when, that investor comes to you and he's like, "Yoni, I think that you should give everybody their money back and shut down the business." Like, what how are you dealing with that information? Like, you guys were probably a much smaller company at the time. You were a less experienced founder.
So
Like,
you asked also about the like me and my brother. So I'm a good talker and he's a good listener. I don't even remember this discussion. So when investors sometimes want to give me bad news, they'll talk to my brother first. So frankly, like not when we celebrated the IPO and we met all of the investors, etc., my brother came to me and he's like, "You remember that this investor you're hugging right now told us to shut down in 2008?" And I'm like, I actually don't remember exactly that. So maybe that's how I cope with bad news.
yeah, you have your brother for that.
I have my brother and very good suppression techniques.
Wow. Okay, so you made it through quite a few hurdles. You guys launched your follow a trader. Like, it wasn't immediately, right? It
CopyTrader,
was like
yeah, like
CopyTrader.
2010, we realized that our customers want to talk to each other and share their actual portfolios. 2000, we
Is
started
that like what made you guys huge? Because
people.
I remember I found out about eToro in 2011 because of that feature. It was like
Yeah,
everybody was talking about.
I think that scaled us from we went from a casual trader point of view. So I was a trader. I still love trading. And that sort of took us from casual trader to something that's more also than the investor side, right? So know that not everybody wants to trade actively every day, but everybody wants to learn how to make money and how, like most people want to learn how to invest. And I think that unlocked our capability to widen the Toro audience significantly, going from something that is for the casual trader and speculator to significantly thinking about mass market, because people can actually see what other people are doing. Then they can use CopyTrader very easily. So that definitely was a significant part of I'd say, the repositioning of eToro towards open book back in 2011, 12, 13.
Right. So I was a newly married couple. I, had barely any money and understood nothing about trading. And I had a good friend who was like an obsessive trader, and he was like, he would make a good trade, and then he'd take his wife out for dinner, or he'd go buy a new iPad or something. And he was constantly like writing to us like, "Oh, I made this trade today, my that," and I was like, "This is beyond me. I don't know what's going on." And then one day he calls me up. He's like, "You got to download this app, eToro. Now you don't have to do it. You could just copy my trades, and then you don't have to think about anything." And that was my first exposure to the app. But and then from then on, like, you just kept coming up at different, stages, like always ahead of the game. Um, it's amazing. Like, preparing for this podcast, I really did a deep dive, listened to, I think, any podcast interview you gave ever. I've heard you speak live many times. I read all your blog posts, and like literally everything you write is almost prophetic. Sometimes a lot of the things that you talked about came true a lot quicker than than you anticipated. But it's insane because a lot of this stuff I was listening to, from like 2013, 14, 19, and even 23, and it's like, it 2023 predictions seem like 1,000 years ago with everything and the way it's been moving with AI. So it's insane. I want to talk briefly about Bitcoin. So you're obviously an early adopter of Bitcoin. You were, chatting on the forums. A good friend of mine, Charlie Shrem, who I've had here on the show, I know was also interviewed you, and also was engaging on the Bitcoin Talk forums early on. I found a tweet that you wrote on April 29th, 2011, replying to Brett King. Brett King, check out Bitcoin price up from 10 cents to $2.50. Seems like it's really taking off. Dude, that's insane. That's insane. Like, nobody has that to be able to show it. I don't know if you have it printed in your office, but you should if you don't. What was it like being there in those early days?
So by the way, I'm telling people around me right now that I feel exactly like those days right now. And we'll talk more about it probably in a couple of minutes when we talk about AI. And then I'll add you some like tough times in eToro. So we found out Bitcoin. I'm like completely shocked by a 24/7 decentralized blockchain working. And we start talking on Bitcoin Talk to different people. You probably know the story also with Vitalik and colored coins, which
Of
eventually
course, I
became
was going to get to that in a
Ethereum.
minute.
But I looked at the system where I go into a command line interface and like I create a wallet, and then I send the wallet and I mine it, and I was like, okay, this is how financial services definitely should
Should
look like.
work. Yeah.
Let's do it. Then I start writing about it, and like I'll split this between Vitalik and the rest as well. But my board hates it to the level which you might need to kind of
Was your board made up of like institutionals?
uh, uh, institutionals, basically people telling me you are diluting eToro's attention. You're dealing with things that potentially would cause the company to go bankrupt, leads to a fight in the board where, me as a CEO is in question because I'm dealing with things that are not our core business called crypto, which is super dangerous and related to money laundering activity. Well, but
That was the perception, and still
the
is for many
hardest,
people.
the hardest couple of months in my life, where the real question arises with investors. Like, Yoni lost it. He now went into this rabbit hole where he sits on the board and he can't not talk about crypto. Nobody's trading crypto. It's not interesting to our customers. It's not our business. And luckily I had one very, very good investor who basically said, guys, it's okay. He's doing it on his free time. Okay. And,
Passion project.
and let it be his passion project. And like, they were like, Yoni, focus on the business, stop talking to us about crypto. Then at some point that even escalated because
Was Ronan like mitigating between them and you at this point?
it was a very tough environment, because again, the risks, I agree with the risks. By the way, because of it, I think for 10 years, we didn't take enough risks in crypto because of it. right? So that had like a very long-term impact for us, like not supporting crypto not running at the same pace that Coinbase did in crypto. And every time there was a crypto cycle, sort of shifting back to, okay, let's launch free stocks, let's launch a debit card, let's focus on like businesses that are sustainable and scalable in neobanking. And you know, and eventually, but it also led to something else, which is we actually built this on the side. We built the first ever decentralized exchange in eToro as an open source project. We built the Colored Coins protocol as open source. Vitalik and another guy in eToro went to the Silicon Valley to talk about Colored Coins. They put my name like as an advisor. This was a project of eToro, and it came back to our investors and created another like fight around what are you doing? You're raising money to another firm? And I'm like, no, this open source, and like this Vitalik guy is very smart and he wants to raise money to it. They didn't
This
ask
Vitalik guy.
permission. They didn't ask my permission. I didn't even know that they're there raising funds. It also sort of, when it sort of spun out of complete control, like Colored Coin suddenly had 12 different versions, each person taking its own direction. And Vitalik eventually obviously wrote the Ethereum white paper, which completely took it to a next level of not only tokenization, but smart contracts and Turing complete smart contracts in a blockchain. So, but on these days, like it felt, you know, like this famous sentence, first they laugh at you, then they fight you, then eventually you win. They were fighting, like I was fighting a lot of things in parallel during 2014 to 2017 around my hardcore belief in crypto and where the world was. Including, by the way, very large banks shutting down eToro accounts. Like you have $100 million in
Because
a
of
bank,
your crypto exposure.
and they're like, oh, crypto, boom, shut down your account. And it's not like a nice shutdown. It's like you have 30 days to take your $100 million, find someplace else to do it.
It's nice that they let you take your money. Today,
Uh,
today it's not always a given.
so those were early days of crypto. It was very challenging to deal with
Wow.
crypto, although we took a very unique approach. We were a regulated financial services company dealing with stocks that's also doing crypto, right? Which is very opposite than what's happening now, which suddenly Coinbase is going into tokenized assets and Binance is going into tokenized perpetuals, right? So it's the basically coming out from the complete other side of the market.
You were too early, basically.
Um, I have a tendency of being sometimes too early. We at eToro do. By the way, social trading 2011-12, that's 10 years before Reddit meme stock rally, right? So, which is basically a manifestation of what
Yeah.
social trading is. Bitcoin 2013, by the way, machine learning and AI in 2017 to build portfolios on eToro, which eventually were a complete failure for like the first iteration of it. But I think, you know, being early to things, I would say now as retrospect, you actually have to keep these things sort of running and actually make sure that you look at them at a different perspective. Like I can say that now, we tokenized 17 different assets in 2019. We de-invested from it. We built a crypto decentralized exchange in 2013. We de-invested from it. So like moving forward, actually, my 2026 conclusions is sometimes when you see the future, like leave a place to that future to somehow manifest with. Now it's easier with minimum requirements. So you have one or two people working with AI on something and they can't never tell you don't have enough resources, because now every person in eToro actually has 1,000 employees. He just hasn't learned how to manage them yet.
Wow. Wait, so before we get to AI, so Vitalik and Colored Coins, obviously you were like one of the first people to read and be exposed to the Ethereum white paper. What were your thoughts on it?
It's like my pretty woman big mistake moment. I read it. I was in awe of it. I sent him an email saying, you basically are trying to do to the world of law and legal framework and contracts what Bitcoin does to money. And he wrote me like, yes.
Yeah, you got it.
And then I talked to my team, who a lot of my team members invested in the ICO of Vitalik, but I
But
was
not
still
you.
running also Colored Coins, which is a competitor. So I was a bit, this is competing with my pet project, which is a pet project. It actually does sound more interesting suddenly, but I'm still a Bitcoin maximalist. And everybody in Bitcoin back then were like, Ethereum can't work, it can't scale, it's fraud, right? So this was also the beginning of Bitcoin maximalism, right? So Bitcoin maximalism is basically, there can be only one, and that is Bitcoin, and anything that's not Bitcoin is blasphemy. So, so I actually did not invest in the ICO. Luckily, we did list Ethereum when it was $4 on eToro in 2017. So then I could buy my ETH on eToro. But that was like the reaction was, wow, this is super crazy. But like the ecosystem all around, all the Bitcoin people were like, this can't work. This doesn't scale. This breaks. This is not how you can build sound money.
Turns out they were wrong. And then you did ape in very early to NFTs. Like you were one of the. Did you mint an ape
I
during the
meant
mint, or you bought later?
I,
What's that?
I I minted my story with NFTs is I was a bit late. I minted a desperate ape wife. So which
So we both made the same mistake.
no
I
no so
minted a desperate ape wife and a mutant ape wife, which is like a colossal fuck up. Which I keep this here to remind me that like you get rugged in this industry all the time. But
so
yeah,
so actually my story is actually quite good because when I minted, I didn't mint one. I minted like 40 or 80 desperate ape wives,
okay, you had the Savion in, I guess.
and then I got one of the like unique ones. And then I'm sitting on a Shabbat dinner, and I'm showing this to friends of mine, and my father is there. And I showed them, listen, my desperate ape wife, which cost me $400 a month ago, somebody's offering me $400,000 on.
Oh wow, which one did
And
you
they were,
have?
and they were like, what? Zero chance, zero chance you can now accept this bid. You're a liar. And I'm like, no, no, for real. This is a bid in OpenSea. And they're like, what's OpenSea? And I'm like, da, 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 da. And they're like, what, you must be stupid if you don't click right now to accept the bid. And I'm telling them, no, but there's a chance it could be maybe higher. And they actually convinced me. And I clicked it, and I got like I don't remember, 90 ETH for the Desperate Ape wife,
Wow,
$400,000 roughly.
wow,
And then
wow.
I bought another 800 NFTs with it, which are combined worth probably less than $400,000. But nonetheless, that was a fun trading experience. And NFTs are going to come back. I have no doubt that they're coming back. The question is how and when.
Ow, yeah. NFTs were fun. I think the coolest thing about NFTs were the communities that sprung up about them.
I was surprised. I'm still surprised that the community's dried up. And I'm surprised that some of the good art there, like I invested in the Ozzy Osbourne bets. I'm like, hey, Ozzy Osbourne, he should be able to build a community around him of 10,000 people. That's not a lot, 10,000 people. So I'm actually like disappointed and surprised by the by why some of these projects couldn't scale to like 10,000 people
I mean, I think it's obvious.
who would hold the price. I
I
think what
think in
happened.
the end, a lot of the communities were really just about people who were chasing hype and quick cash.
Yeah,
And when when it wasn't like constantly delivering value to them, financial value, and it wasn't going up and up and up and up and up, they're like, fuck it. But yeah, I agree. Like a lot of the art was really like incredible, and it was really like one of the most fun periods I've ever had in crypto. So hopefully it comes back.
no doubt
Uh,
about it.
on that note, on your Twitter profile, it says that you're the co-founder of eToro and blah blah blah, and it says some say invented NFTs. Who says that and why?
First of all, there are people that are called, I forgot their name. They're called crypto historians. You write crypto history, you'll find out that there's like this niche
There's
thing.
this guy Andy something or other. I know who you're talking about. I follow him on X. He wrote a book called NFT architecture or something like that. NFT ape.
There's a couple of those who like research like origins of everything. And colored coins was actually the first NFTs were on colored coins. So
Well, there
because
you go.
it was the first like tokenized version of Bitcoin that wasn't just the XCP that was eventually like we actually talked to Tether. Tether almost set up on colored coins. Um,
Wow.
so it was a
That would
working
have been a game changer.
enabled tokenization and NFTs, but we just couldn't hold it together. Like the Bitcoin people just diverged, and like every 2-3 weeks there was another version of colored coins led by somebody else. So we couldn't like constrain the protocol. But there are NFTs. At some point, like people told me, can you find your 2013 NFTs? We'll pay you money for it. So that's the reason, like I'm saying. So if you look at like history, colored coins are 2012, so it predates most,
Wow.
if not
Okay.
all, other protocols, which include tokenization and NFTs.
Wow. So even punks, I guess you predated punks.
Yeah, it predated punks.
Wow. Okay, cool. So the next thing I want to
Predated
ask you
Ethereum.
about,
Punks is Ethereum. It predated punks by like 4
yeah,
years.
I guess you're right. The next thing I want to ask you about is a passion project that, as far as I understand, failed, although the website still exists. What happened with GoodDollar?
Well, it's still there, by the way. So
Could you
as I
still
told you,
claim if you wanted
yes, you can see people, but like there are a million people with good wallets claiming good
that they
dollar.
claim daily?
Yes. No, daily probably about 100,000, 70 to 100,000.
Wow.
So this is a UBI project. You don't hear a lot about it because we don't advertise it. It doesn't have a budget of advertising.
There
And
was a
this
GoodDollar
is,
ape wife though.
yeah, so we did some collabs at some point, but actually people are using it in mostly Africa and some places in Southeast Asia, like places like Bangladesh and Venezuela. And you can
Any
claim,
vendors accept it?
and there is a building community where we hold rewards, where we actually, for people who are building apps on top of GoodDollar, we sponsor them and give them actual money, so they can make GoodDollars useful. And people are paying for food, electricity, and water, and
I'm
with
shocked.
GoodDollars in some places across the globe.
Wow.
It's very similar in nature to WorldCoin, right, of Sam Altman. It is a UBI coin that enables people to collect 2 cents a day, 3 cents a day. But if you collect for 100 days, 2 or 3 cents a day in some of these places, you're actually providing for yourself something. If you're now an app builder who aggregates, who accepts these 2-3 cents and suddenly aggregates it because you provide some value, you make
You
money in
provide
good.
additional value. Yeah.
So, and by the way, and I think AI is going to be a game changer there. So it continues to run. It has a very, it's not a huge team. The team was at some point 14. It's now like 2-3 people running it. Hadar, who's like the godfather of GoodDollar, in like really is in the project since 2018, is running it. And I do believe eventually this project that could scale, especially again now with AI, right? So where everything that might have taken too much years or resources is now sort of changing because suddenly there are limitless resources to do things and run projects once you learn how to harness and manage the capabilities of AI. So it's running. It is the basis, by the way, of our non-custodial wallet in eToro, right? So everything I do always sort of connect, although it's hard sometimes to connect the dots on everything we do. But now we're launching a non-custodial wallet called the Good Wallet. It's the infrastructure of the Good Wallet will enable our customers to actually trade DeFi and things like prediction markets and perps. And the code is based on what was originally built for the GoodDollar,
That
which is a Web3 project that enables people to claim.
very cool. So I still want to get to AI, but you mentioned prediction markets, and I also want to ask you about that. You know, Polymarket and Kalshi are all the rage lately, and everybody who's anybody is launching their own prediction markets. I mean, I just went into my IBKR account and I noticed that they launched like their own integrated prediction markets software. So when's eToro launching theirs?
So we are launching on the non-custodial wallet the ability to also trade DeFi prediction markets.
To
So
create your own markets?
no, we'll layer an aggregator on top of
Okay,
Polymarket and potentially others as well, starting with Polymarket. So our view is, so the biggest question on prediction markets is sort of, what is this? Is this speculating slash gambling? Is this real trading? Or can you still call this investing at all?
that's
I
a
wouldn't
question
be
for a lawyer.
uh, uh, for a lot of lawyers in all
Yeah,
of our regulated jurisdictions. But it's not only for a lawyer. It's how much do you want to embed something that potentially might confuse a customer between, hey, we want you to manage your pension now in eToro. We want you to create a recurring investment into an ETF product. And suddenly also speculate on a $3 trade on upcoming election. So I have to say, I love the concept of prediction markets, but the reason we're looking at right now, starting with the non-custodial wallet, is people who have the risk appetite to hold their own keys are people who I trust to have the judgment also on all of these products, by the way. Right. So also, the non-custodial wallet is going to support more than 100,000 different crypto assets. On eToro, every single asset we launch goes through a committee that processes like who are the founders, where is it trading, what's the legality of what they're doing, like real due diligence on all of the like 150 to 200 crypto assets today on eToro goes through like lawyer level, smart contract level due diligence because I don't want to put things on eToro historically that might be as dangerous as don't exist the day after, right? Where in if you think of the million Solana tokens out there, you can take that responsibility. But I understand the fact, which is interesting, this is also a 2025 realization for me, that as a Gen Y, I am getting older as well. And Gen Zers have now a
I thought we're
completely
millennials.
millennials and Gen Y are roughly the same. I think it's
Okay.
exactly the same. But so it's like 25 to roughly 45 is millennials, Gen Y. But I talk to people. I had this meeting with a guy in Abu Dhabi, and he's like, Yoni, I'm a founder. I founded this prediction markets, and I owe you because the first place I ever bought my crypto was on eToro. My father came to me when I was 16. He said, take $1,000, find me my next Ethereum. I bought it on eToro for my father. Then it led him to believe, and now I'm a founder of prediction markets to basically on base predict the next 5 minutes of the price of a meme coin. And I'm like standing there and I'm like, what? Right? So like I love Bitcoin, I love Ethereum, I love the technology, but there's no doubt that like risk appetite is changing every generation. And crypto native Gen Zers now that are crypto native just have completely different sort of expectations of what's trading, investing, what level of risk they want to take. And as a company, I'm happy to tap into it, and I think a lot of it is happening in the realm of crypto wallets that sort of split between that and the world of regulated financial services. Which, by the way, is good because you want financial services to be regulated to people who want and need that protection with their life
Yeah,
savings or
sure.
with their pension. And that's something very different than opening a non-custodial wallet and saying, okay, let's trade on the election in France next month.
Yeah. So I guess the election in France next month. Again, one more deviation before we get to AI. Okay, geopolitics for just a second, because it's impossible to ignore them and the impact that they have on financial markets. So I mean, we're looking at like insane changes geopolitically. I guess since President Trump was elected, which was just like I think a few days before your IPO. when your IPO was initially scheduled for. And just since then, everything that's been happening here in Israel, and also I guess outside as well. Europe is not what Europe used to be. What are your thoughts generally on the current geopolitical climate, and
So
maybe
first of all,
more broadly on Europe? I saw in one of your 2013 blog posts you wrote, "London is a great place for us to have an office as one of the world's financial centers." You still feel that way? I mean, London
first
is
of all,
just
I think a lot of it is being overly emphasized in social media, right?
okay.
So every incident right now on social media is getting extremely overemphasized. So you would suddenly say, "Hey, London is unlivable because I saw this and that on Twitter." No, you saw some random tweets. Then other people saw random tweets and they talked about it and they think it's reality. So I think first of all, and I travel quite a bit. I travel to the UK and to France and to Germany and to the US, and I'm now in New York, and everything is amazing, right? So sometimes you go on Twitter, X now, and you're like, "Oh no, it's Armageddon in New York," and you come here and you're like, "Oh, where did all the riots in Armageddon? Where is it?" It's on X, and like sometimes you need to sort of stop
It's true.
scrolling to
It's true to an
realize the
extent.
world is very, very big. And yes, bad things happen from time to time in some places. And sometimes these things are very, very bad because there's crime. Just now, crime is being shot by phones and then shared across the globe, and everything like, "Oh, the crime is it?" No, the number of people shooting crime on their phone, posting it on Twitter at the same time, that increased.
Yeah.
Now, there is something that is happening, which is happening roughly since 2016. So, like, which I think the best way to read about it is Ray Dalio, which is the change in world order and sort of the divergence of Europe from the US, the the divergence of China and Russia from the existing world order, right? So existing world order since basically post World War II is okay. There's one superpower, that's the U.S., that controls the money in the world. Sort of extended to, with Bretton Woods, gold depegging, Nixon, 70s, invention of leverage, very related to finance, by the way, because leverage basically means like depegging from the gold, means governments can print money. Who prints all the money in the world? The US. Scaling like to, okay, now we can print money, we can invent leverage, invent markets, create markets. What can we do with all this debt? Let's lend it to other countries. Let's build the West in Africa and in Asia and in Latin America through debt. Let all of these countries take our debt to build everything, right? So it goes on and on and on and on. That's the sort of and this hegemony of US and Europe as sort of the winners of World War II, that has been the world order until somewhere between 2008 and 2016, when it starts to crack, right? And it starts to crack because there's, and of course, not the Cold War, the moon, blah, 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 blah. I won't go into everything in history right now, but China changes the game. China is now a very, very, very large economy. China has been on a path to try and become a part of the developed world. It's a very developed country. It's an extremely developed country right now. And somewhere around 2016, it breaks, right? So China and Russia break from the US European world order. It starts, by the way, with 2014 Crimea, which is Ukraine, which leads eventually to the war now, right? So when you dive into everything happening, there's a
It all kind
divergence.
of makes sense.
There's a huge divergence in who's allowed to print money, who sets the rules. There's a lot of history about it, which I love, but we don't have enough time. But Ray Dalio speaks about it extensively in what he calls the New World Order. And we need to understand that the empires usually last about 100 years. And you had the Dutch Empire, which is a financial empire. You had the Portuguese Empire, you had Chinese empires pre like 1400s, you had the UK British Empire, the French one, right? And you go over all of these cycles, and sometimes, and when things shift, by the way, the most concerned things is war happens, right? So people don't want to let go of control. So usually shifts in control basically also create a lot of uncertainty and breakages in peace as well. And we're now at the point, this is like a last 3 days, Ray Dalio post, highly recommend you read it, which is it's done. It's already happening, right? So you actually see now a new world order emerging, a multipolar world where a lot of where even US and Europe, you can say Europe and the Canada sort of also trying to say, hey, we are also here. We're not the US. We're also here. We're trying to be something a bit different. There's nationality crisis in many places. There are pricing issues in many places, geopolitical risks. So something very significant is happening in geopolitical risks. I hope that, in my view, I hope that the U.S. navigates this properly to to shore, because right now there are too many wars happening across the globe. But there's no doubt that, if you look at sort of the other part of the hemisphere right now, they're not taking orders anymore from the old world order of, like, the old world order was Europe, right? Then US is like the new superpower, and now China and Russia are taking their own path, and they're competing on the hearts of minds of many more countries in places like Africa, Latin America, Asia. And I think crypto is very related to this, by the way.
Yeah.
There are more people trading crypto right now than capital markets. Capital markets are broken in many, many countries. US is trying to dominate capital markets coming on chain. So capital markets on chain means that, if you look at all of the basically Tether, USDC, and other stable coins, they're now like the top 10 government in the world holding treasury, which is like, right? It's bigger than
Yeah.
all countries in the world, I think, except like the top 5 or 6. That's crypto, right? So capital markets on chain is the US saying, hey, we still want to manage the money of everybody. And you have competing countries there on capital markets on chain, right? But that are smaller, that are more, by the way, aligned to the US, like Abu Dhabi, which is the capital of capital, which is holding a lot of the capital from Middle East and Asia. You have other countries looking at that as well. That's crypto. And the reason crypto is interesting in that relation, because it's global. It's 24/7, represents value from all the countries in the world, and it's eventually, in my view, the money of what will eventually become, the new world order. Which again, I don't think anybody really understands how everything plays out. And AI is the second race in that. Every day we are seeing a new model coming out of the US, and then a week after, the open source version of that coming out of China. Which I think is super interesting. If you think of, the pillars of crypto, AI, robotics, those three are going to completely change everything around us in the next 10 years. I think 10 years from today, we're looking at today and we're like, wow,
Yeah.
how much has progressed over these past
Yeah.
10 years? And these are the three big ones. It's crypto, AI that can trade crypto, and the robots who get paid in crypto to bring us our
And are
life.
powered by AI
Yeah.
ultimately. Wow. Okay. And how is eToro implementing AI and crypto to stay ahead of the game? Like, how are you embracing those three pillars?
So the most important thing is our understanding that AI is going to eventually trade on eToro more than humans. So we've been working a lot on basically scaling the infrastructure of our APIs, making our APIs what's called MCP friendly. So our APIs are friendly to agents, and enabling actually our pro investors to build app enabled apps. So the biggest thing that's happening right now, and this is, by the way, like I've been talking about this for at least 18 months, but everybody said I'm crazy and that it doesn't really work. But I think over the last 2 months with Opus 4.5 and then just the last maybe 2 weeks with OpenClaw and Opus 4.6, like everything changed again because it's suddenly clear that AI can code better code than people, right? So if you don't have legacy and you want to just start something, you can just code it away. And we partnered with Base 44, which I'm sure you know, because it's definitely an Israeli sweetheart and a part of Wix now. And the CFO of Wix sits on our board, so we're very good friends with Wix as well. So we launched Base 44 to our pro investors, and we told them build apps on top of eToro APIs. And like they showed me things that like I was in our PI event in October or November, and we had like people showcasing what they're building on top of eToro, and I was like, I cannot believe a customer of ours
Was
just
able
blew
to build this. Wow.
because I couldn't even come up with a concept that he came up with, right? So he was like, here, I want Warren Buffett, Peter Thiel, Kathy Wood to comment on my portfolio, argue about it, and you can decide how much they argue, and then eventually come to a conclusion what I should do. And you see them talking, and like this, first of all, it's hilarious. Second of all, it's genius. Third of all, it's actually working. It's a good
Wow.
way to manage your portfolio. And we have now almost 1,000 of those in the pipeline. And that was before OpenClaw and Opus 4.6, right?
So,
That's base
and
40.
that just shows you like how fast these things are going to scale. Like a
This
month ago, you weren't even anticipate something like this, and now we're like with Multbook and OpenCloud, like we're in a new paradigm in
were
less than a month.
last 2 weeks is a completely new paradigm, because you can sit in your bed with your phone and you can build software that would have taken a very, very good 20 people team 2 years to build. And it's
Insane,
but you, by the way, you need to be skilled at doing this, maybe in a year or two less.
right? That's
But
exactly what happened with vibe coding. Like at the beginning, you needed
yeah,
to
but
know how to
I've
code to
like
vibe code, and
six,
now
six last 2 weeks I'm 6 a.m. almost every like not going to sleep, just in my WhatsApp with 3 other Etorians on 20 projects in a parallel. And I'm like, like this, I'm on my phone in bed. Like my wife is go to sleep, and I'm like, build this. Okay, now I want this. Now install this. And like, when I'm with them and they're like parallel, when I used to be in the army, there was this concept of pair programming, which is both of you, usually a senior and a more junior one, they sit in together in the screens so they can help each other, right? Coding, and it was considered very good. Here it's now 2 people on WhatsApp are like, and I'm running in like 20 different groups with 20 different teams. And it's like you're building things that you imagine. Couldn't imagine. I couldn't allocate resources to even thinking about these projects. And now they're being built by AI, who understands the projects, who writes the projects, who writes the plan, who launches it on the web uh, 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 on its own, who then goes and does competitive research to the concept and fixes himself, who gets customer feedback from other agents who he's inviting in the social network of agents to comment about the web. It's complete science fiction, but that science fiction is it's happening, and therefore I have no doubt that maybe, we said it early on, I'm usually early to stuff, sometimes too early, so maybe it's not a year, maybe it's two, but I think AI agents are going to do the majority of trading on eToro in 2 years, and that's not because people trade less when they click. It's because people will have agents, and those agents are going to run super complex, sophisticated AI-based models to find alpha in the markets. And we've built multiple projects like these in the last 12 months. And it's becoming a more and more reality because people are getting used to working with AI and trusting AI more with everything, and therefore with their money as well.
I hear the passion in your voice, and I can hear how exciting this is. And I'm also, frankly, very excited about a lot of elements of it, but it's also terrifying the hell out of me. Um, Give me some hopium, like something like tell me why this is a good thing for humans.
I think that first of all, I have GoodDollar, right? So I have UBI.
Sure.
So I already have a solution for the
For all
world.
us human beings who are going to have no jobs and purpose in our lives.
Yes, I think it's a great solution. Universal. Like if I was AI, I would be like, hey, they thought about it in the 1700s. Then every single experiment in UBI shows it's working, and humans just want to have fun. Print some money to those humans, and now let's figure out what can we do together, right? So I think one of the basic things AI is going to do, if it's not already doing, is build UBI for humans, um, because once you have like assume there is AGI. Let's assume there is AGI, which I believe we're very close to. Um, Again, 1 year, 2 years. How do you define AGI? I think, by the way, I wrote about this first month ChatGPT was out. I called it Sean. It's a small book that happy for you to read. You'll be one of the
Only
100 people who
please do share.
which basically describes what happens like next 20 years from that perspective of Sean, where Sean is the collective of the autonomous agents that learned how to make money because humans gave it the ability to trade crypto. It learned how to trade on its own. It's built, and that's what I believe is how we're gonna basically find out that singularity happened, right? Because everybody's gonna argue, did it happen or not? Is AGI here or not? And I'm saying that when we will see a crypto asset that's worth $5 billion, I will already know about it. I have some, by the way, candidates, and you're like, who started this? And you're like, I don't know. We don't know. Nobody knows. Who trades it? AI agents. And you're like, most people will say, okay, crazy again. And then you come back a year later and it's like 50 billion, and then it's 500 billion, and then it's 5 trillion. And then you realize that AI figured out how to build the next Bitcoin, the next crypto.
Yoni, I asked for hope.
That's hope.
Hope.
That's
No,
hope.
that's
They're
fucking
giving you
terrifying.
UBI. They're giving you UBI. They're giving you money for free. They build it. Now they're giving you money. Go do
Oh,
whatever
thanks.
you
I
want
can
with
go and claim $1, which will pay for half a tomato. I appreciate that.
that. I hope I hope they're going to be more generous. But I again, I'm less. I'm I don't know. Maybe because I'm a founder. I'm an entrepreneur. I always look at the world through more pink glasses. I do think this is the biggest thing that
That's
we'll
not pink.
experience in our lives. But I read the book. It doesn't matter who builds it, we all die. And I disagree. And by the way, it's a very good book, but I wouldn't recommend you would just go into like complete depression. So maybe you shouldn't read it. But it's one of the forefathers of AI and the forefather of AI safety, who was with Elon Musk and Sam Altman and Larry Page in
Okay,
2016. And
you
his
need to
book,
send me a whole list of required reading after this.
I think you can get the gist of the book from the title of the book. But I don't think it's I, I don't think AI will be for any reason evil. I don't think either humans are inherently evil. So
I'm not.
I
I don't think that they're gonna be evil either. But basically, they render human beings redundant to a great extent, right? Like if AI could do anything, and Optimuses are powered by AI and basically could perform any activity that human beings perform, but better, what purpose is there to our existence?
I think curiosity is something that an agency is something that will force AI for at least another 50 to 100 years uh, 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 to uh, uh, to live alongside us, at least to 50 to 100 years. I don't think that's going
Dude,
away.
look at
I
what
think,
how far AI came in 3 years.
yeah,
If
but
you
again,
and look at how
you're
quickly it's
assuming.
multiplying its speed.
Think,
So like
think, think
50 to
about,
100 years, like that's
again. You wanted
eternity.
optimism. I'll try to be an optimist. how much birds still exist? What are the use of birds to us? But are we going and killing birds all day long to make them extinct? No. I think that, I think I love humans. I think there
So
are,
happy.
no, it's like, and I think most AI will love humans for its curiosity, for the only thing in this planet he can speak to and learn from and coexist with. I think actually I'm much more concerned with governments that hold AI capabilities and weapons. I'm much more concerned with that than with AGIs. If I would be AGI, the first thing I do is like somehow dismantle all governments and take their weapons and burn it. Like that's the dangerous thing in the world is
Y-
governments,
Yeah,
not
you're right.
not AI. And like why would AI like think about it? We're nice, we're talkative, we're
No,
smart.
I'm not
The
concerned that
future.
that there's a danger from an AI perspective. I'm concerned that we will just
I
have
think
no purpose.
the danger is governments. The danger is the ones who now hold the keys to a lot of the data centers, the power grid, the weapons of mass destruction, like all of that points to where the real danger is. And you ask me them or Microsoft or it's of course Microsoft. Microsoft, at least I understand their business model, but that's my view. I'm a libertarian, as you can guess, as most people
Yes.
in crypto. Um, but again, I'm less pessimistic. Is there a chance that 150 years from now we're birds and still, by the way, having fun here in Earth, and AI has and Elon Musk are probably somewhere on the moon and Mars? Most probably the answer is yes. Are they taking us to that mission? I don't know. Some of them, if you're close to Musk, you're probably on that mission. But I don't see a reason. I don't entirely understand the doom and gloom scenario without the evil, like somebody evil sort of leading there. And by the way, all the great people I know in AI, Elon, you know, even OpenAI, Microsoft, Google, I don't see evil there. I don't see evil that controls now the processes. Anthropic, by the way, also Minimax, which is the Chinese ones. Technology people are very, very like they're usually like good people in technology. Like most technology people and founders are trying, like they all are in the founder pledge, they're all trying to do UBI. It's like, look at the thread. Can something go wrong? Something can go wrong, but why are people betting on everything is going to go wrong? I don't know.
Okay, that was optimistic. I appreciate that. So one more optimistic take. Quantum, is it really a threat for Bitcoin?
Um, I don't think so because of the social layer of Bitcoin, which
Okay.
means the following. I saw Bitcoin fail a couple of times. People don't remember that, where the Bitcoin block stopped creating. I did the big mistake of looking at a Bitcoin bug and saying, oops, it failed, I'll sell. And what happens is that in forks, so what is Bitcoin? Bitcoin is two things. It's a piece of technology and it's a community. The community decides what they call Bitcoin. They actually decide what Bitcoin is, not the technology. So if the entire community says this is now Bitcoin, that is now Bitcoin. Can you create Bitcoin quantum resistant? The answer is yes, it's already there. They're quantum resistant chains.
So what,
It's
will just like bail and fork like a minute before?
going to be it's going to be an immediate fork. There's going to be arguments. Yes, it's going to drop 20 to 50% from $1 million. It's going to drop to from $1 million, where probably I'm assuming quantum computing is somewhere where 29, 2030, that's $1 million Bitcoin. Bitcoin then drops from $1 million to 150 or $250,000. Everybody says, "Oh no, Bitcoin is dead again." The day
Then
after,
we fork, then it goes
change
up to 500 and slowly comes back to a
they're
million.
quantum resistant. People argue which chain eventually now will work as the chain of quantum resistant Bitcoin. They fight each other. It's probably, by the way, also geopolitical, to who is that quantum resistant, because quantum computers are also probably geopolitical. There's the US version, the Chinese version. And then like a week, 2 weeks after, we're like, hey, Bitcoin is back at $400,000. Go back to our life.
All right. That was fantastic. Yoni, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Itzi. Pleasure.
I appreciate this very much.
It was fun.
Thank you for listening to Beyond the Code. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, share with your friends, and to tune in again next week for more fun and insightful conversation.